Well, it's Groundhog Day. Again. And that must mean that I am Professor Robert E. G. Black. And this is the Groundhog Day Project. Or maybe it's just a time loop of the week that is life itself. I don't know.
It's like we're stuck. You know, like a needle on a scratch record.
It's one of those infinite time loop situations you might have heard about.
It's a thing where the same day keeps happening?
I wake up every day right here, right in Punxsutawney, and it's always February 2nd.
Time. I promise to explain everything later, but I need you to trust me.
Slow down! What are you, in a damn time loop or something?
If this rant gets long, it'll be its own episode. If it's not that long, I'm gonna stick it on to whatever the next episode is. I don't remember. I know it's a recording of me reading day 246 of the blog, but I don't remember what it is about. And let's just leave all that in there. Even if it's the time loop of the week.
Most of life is just junk, right? It's filler. And then there's these moments.
It's a perfect day. You couldn't have planned a day like this.
Well, you can. It just takes an awful lot of work.
When all the randomness turns into something perfect. It's like life's dropping all the bullshit just for a second to show us how amazing it could be all the time if it wanted to.
I don't know. I think maybe we're supposed to become like better people. Though I honestly don't even know how that could be possible.
Whoa, now. Sounds like someone's got a case of the time loop blues.
Ever think about it? We must miss so many of them. All those tiny perfect things are just poof, gone. Lost forever. But not today.
You can make right what once went wrong.
That is a disturbingly inspirational idea, Mark.
I know, but what is this? Some kind of time loop, like a gypsy curse? Is the universe giving us a cosmic test, or am I just going fucking crazy?
Time.
The last revision is what counts, apparently.
What if we found them all? All the perfect things in this one town, in this one day. We could collect them.
A stupid thing pissed me off, is what it is. And I was in a weird thing where I took a week off for Thanksgiving, and then coming back the week after, I was like, do I even feel like doing this anymore? And I've done that before. The blog ended 3 times. This podcast has already had one extended break. And I created a thing that can go on forever, but I don't think it should, or it should, and I need to do it better. But it's that same, goes into strange loops as well. And Paul Hannum, Groundhog Day effect. Every day feels the same. Go to class, I get home, I watch movies. Go to class, I get home, I watch movies. There's not much variety. I try to create variety and then lose it. I have writing projects I am working on, want to be working on, but do they go anywhere? This is like a rant from the first syllable if you listen to that show. Currently on hiatus, but that one's okay because of the format of the show. So I want to read you a thing. My rant will be mixed in. It's an article from The Guardian, February 1st, 2023. I will say up front, no, I'll give you the headline. I watched Groundhog Day every day for a year. Here's what I learned. Adam Daniel for The Conversation. Conversation, I think, is a blog. The Guardian, as far as I can tell, for a blog entry, pays anywhere from $130 to $400. So this guy got a few hundred, probably, for this article that is 948 words, including the headline, including 2 captions for 2 different photos. And this is what he did after watching Groundhog Day for 25.6 days. That's how much time you spend if you watch it every day for a year and don't do anything extra. I did extra stuff, so mine was even more, but 101 minutes times 365 days divided by 1,440, which is the amount of minutes in a day, and you get 25.6. 25.6 days, and he got paid, we'll be generous and say he got paid $400. I got paid nothing, so I guess he did better than me. But I think I got more out of it. In the 1993 film, Bill Murray's character is stuck living the same day over and over in lockdown, I decided to experiment on myself and watch the same film over and over. Wow, Adam, you're so clever. I don't need to be rude to Adam. I would love to get him on the show and talk to him, though. I'd be like, who the fuck do you think you are? So then we got a picture of Phil at Gobbler's Knob, and caption says, I found myself asking how long Phil was trapped in the loop for. Why, Adam? Why is that the thing you're stuck on? Why do people obsess about this? Jumping in from editing, because the answer's easy, and I don't know why I'm asking it rhetorically like I don't know. People want a concrete answer because they want it. I think they want it to make sense. It's not that they want the option for themselves, because obviously you're not going to get stuck in a time loop. But they want to know that after a certain amount of time, maybe they'll get their own shit together. It's like, oh, he was trapped for 32 years? Well, I won't be able to do that because I'm not going to live that much longer. Or, oh, he was there for 1,000 years? Well, none of us will ever be enlightened as Bill Murray is. Never mind that Bill Murray's not particularly enlightened. And Phil Connors, while he's much nicer at the end of the movie, is not particularly enlightened either. As much as I might say otherwise sometimes. He's still just a person. That's why I assume I'm gonna say this sometime in the next few minutes of this other recording, but that's why I always say it doesn't matter the exact time. What matters is he had a lifetime, and it's still his lifetime. He still has to figure shit out. When he gets outside of the time loop, he's gonna have to re-figure out a whole bunch of other stuff in order to get back into regular day-to-day living. So he's still in the same boat as the rest of us. Yes, it's a useful film for thinking about what would I do if I could do whatever today. Because it gets you like the Groundhog Day effect from Paul Hannum, the whole thing of what is it about your life that needs to be changed? Because it might just be your attitude, or it might be that your current circumstances have a problem. You need to find a new significant other, you need to find a new job, you need to find a new hobby, you need to find a new something in your life, or you need to get rid of something in your life. Certain toxic individuals or certain practices you participate in or certain belief systems that you are a part of and you realize don't matter to you anymore. And all of these things can be changed if you just had that extra day where nothing that you did mattered, but in a good way. And we want it to be concrete, we want it to be real, and so everyone obsesses about the math, because if they obsess about the math, they don't have to obsess about the reality, which is that their life is probably missing something that is fundamentally going to make their experience of it better. If they could just figure that shit out. Or possibly they've already figured that shit out, they just haven't gotten to it because of their whatever is keeping you from the thing that is going to make your life better. Someone trapped in a time loop like Phil Connors, he has that opportunity, so you like to see it. And then the math turns it into something we can calculate and show off to everyone else. I don't know who Wolf Nards is, but he was someone I always made fun of in the blog because he came up with this very specific figure, and I basically pointed out how every one of his calculations was wrong. Or most of his calculations were wrong, like how long it would take to learn French. I'm like, he didn't learn French. I think I say this in this recording. He quotes one Belgian song. And he knows whether or not Rita will respond, whether or not she's going to ask for more French. And if she does, he can go learn more French and do it better the next day. He doesn't have to be fluent in order to test it out. We see that at the bar. He's doing one little piece at a time, testing her response. It's called A/B testing, I think. I wrote a whole blog entry about it. I'm not going to read you that whole blog entry currently. I may when we get to date night, much later in this show. Phil doesn't have to get it right any particular iteration of the loop, because he can always fix the problems the next day. He can always try a new variable the next day. That's harder for us. So we want to know. I think really we calculate the math because the math puts it outside of our reality. We don't have however many years Wolf Nard said it would take to learn French. We don't have how many years it would take to be an expert piano player. Never mind that Phil only plays 2 pieces of music that we hear. We don't have all the time it would take to learn to ice sculpt, which is actually something that I think is much more easy to find out. But also no one's calculations take into account that maybe Phil had a natural affinity for sculpting things. Maybe he already had taken piano lessons as a kid, so he knew some basics. Maybe he was already familiar with, who's the song by? Something Brelet, I think. Jean Brelet? Something like that. Maybe he was already familiar with that song. I think we want it to be out of reach while we pretend like we want it to be in reach. We want to put it into terms we can understand. It's like when people have trouble with their faith in religion because they don't completely understand the nature of God. Or alternatively, someone who has trouble being an atheist because they don't understand all of the fundamental natures of the universe and they think they have to understand all of it. Otherwise, they have to call themselves agnostic. There's a disparity, I think, between what we want from this story and what we allow ourselves to take from this story. Because learning that we're bad at our lives and we are the reason, we don't want that. We don't want a story to tell us, oh, by the way, you suck. We want it to be inspirational, aspirational. So we do the math. Bill Murray plays time-stranded weatherman Phil Connors in the 1993 film Groundhog Day. That's the caption. Then the article. What would you do if you were stuck in one place, every day was exactly the same, and nothing that you did mattered? So asks time-stranded weatherman Phil Connors, played by Bill Murray, as he begins to come to grips with his predicament in the 1993 comedy classic Groundhog Day. On 2nd February, while reporting on the annual Groundhog Festival in the quaint Pennsylvania town of Punxsutawney, Phil becomes trapped in a time warp where he lives the same day over and over again. In 2021, I was wrestling with the same question. It's trying to be profound. It is, but it isn't. Living in lockdown, I was feeling frustration, ennui, and like forward progress had ground to a halt. The circumstances created an opportunity to subject myself to a very unusual challenge, to watch the same film once a day, every day, for a year. As a film scholar and cinephile, I believe he's an instructor. Let me scroll down to the bottom really quick to what the bio said at the time. Adam Daniel is a lecturer in film and media studies at Western Sydney University. As a film scholar and cinephile, I wanted to find out how well a movie would sustain this kind of viewing and what a viewer might get out of the experience. He could have just read my blog instead of subjecting himself to this. He could probably read each entry in much less time than it takes to watch the movie. Groundhog Day was the natural candidate. Yes, it was Lawrence Dye. You picked the wrong movie, although I know yours was arbitrary. People who have no idea what I'm talking about. Lawrence is the reason I did my blog. He had a blog called Lawrence and Julia, where he watched the movie Julie and Julia every day, and he watched it on a whim, ironically, and then it became a thing, because he watched it every day and wrote about it. And he got a blurb in Entertainment Weekly. I was like, that'd be cool. Do a thing, get some notice, get an audience, use that to do other things. But the natural candidate, as Adam here puts it, is Groundhog Day. Do a thing about repeating the same thing. On a Monday morning in September 2021, I sat down on my couch and hit play. Subtitle, The Act of Watching. In the first month, my primary engagement was with the narrative. Like many previous viewers, I found myself asking, oh my god, he jumps right into this? To be fair, I did an entry on this in my first month, but that was, I'm pretty sure, making the point that it didn't matter, and that we shouldn't be doing this. Of course, I then did multiple other posts about that, and about other people who did that, and how they were wrong. So, am I more upset that people obsess about it, or that people obsess about it stupidly? For example, he doesn't learn French. He quotes a single Belgian song. He doesn't have to learn French unless Rita calls him on it, and then he could just try again the next day to get it right. He plays 2 pieces of music that we hear. That's it. And he may have actually known how to play the piano before. He went to Case Western High in Cleveland. That's run by Case Western University. It was a special, I think nowadays what would be called a charter school. He probably had some talent or skill. Like many previous viewers, I found myself asking how long Phil was trapped in the loop for. My own approximation is 30 years. which sits between the 10 years offered by director Harold Ramis, that is not a thing, and the 10,000 years in the original screenplay by Danny Rubin. Neither of those is true. I believe Harold Ramis was quoted as suggesting he assumed it was close to 40 years. I think I might be misremembering that. But the 10,000, the original screenplay. Here's a line, for example, from the voiceover. I don't know why it hadn't occurred to me before. You get caught up in a certain way of thinking, and there you are, 70 or 80 years later, still stuck in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. We could take that literally. So 70 or 80 years, referring to his makeshift calendar he makes out of a bookcase, or he reads one page of a book, 1 page a day, and then counts the pages later so he can know how long it's been. He says in voiceover, in only 20 or 30 short years my calendar was going to expire. No longer would I waste my days on drunken bacchanals, self-pity, and television. I was determined to become the vessel of all human civilization, one book at a time. Could try a library instead of the shelves at Cherry Street. And when I was finished, I was going to count all the pages on this bookcase and celebrate my birthday. He says he's planning the party for years. Where does someone ask him how old he is? Joanne. Who was Joanne? I don't remember. My word, how old are you, Mr. Connors? Phil. 263. Keep in mind, in Rubin's original, he should be about 30 going into the loop, which means the loop has been going for 233 years. And the birthday party is the end of the script. Ish. Near the end. Every visit to my mother was an exercise in aggravation. That hadn't changed in 300 years. So, 300. He talks to an old woman who thinks she's 1016, but she's probably just delusional when he's trying to find people who've also been in loops. Now, people say 10,000. It's closer to, at best, you have a reference to 1,000, but I feel like it's rhetorical, hyperbole. He's on the date with Rita at the end, and she says, you're deluded, you're crazy, you don't just fall in love with somebody like that. Where do you come off falling for me overnight? Phil, it doesn't feel like overnight, it feels like every night for 1,000 years. I don't think that one's literal. And then in the original ending, we learn that Rita's now in a loop for 100 years, although even that's rhetorical, I think. So, no, it is not 10,000 in the original. It is 233 to 300, and the specifics are not the point. I question the credibility of Rita, Andy McDowell, falling in love with Phil, having only known him for a day. Why? It's a romantic comedy. It happens. Plus, we don't know that she did. She's intrigued enough to spend the night with him. I wondered how much of Murray's performance was improvised. In Rubin words, some coloring, but proportionally less than is assumed. Gradually, my familiarity with the narrative led me to shift focus. Rewatching became about exploration as I sought to discover details the average viewer may have missed. There's a lot of those. I began to notice the recurrence of certain extras from scene to scene. It took you over a month to get to that? Annoying dancing couple got to me immediately. I realized the boy in the wheelchair in the background of the hospital scene is the same boy Phil will eventually save from breaking his leg every day. Yes, he also would have been in the scene with the cracks on the sidewalk, except that didn't get into the movie, and is not available as a deleted scene, but I do have a still of them filming it. Which is boy from the diner, boy from the hospital / tree, and piano lesson girl are the 3 kids messing with Phil. I'll talk more about them as we get farther in. I consumed as much extra material on the film as possible. Rubin's screenplay and accompanying commentary. Yes, his book, How to Write Groundhog Day. Film critic Ryan Gilbey's detailed monograph. Hey, I've got that. And Ramis' commentary were all illuminating. Yes, they were. I realized in hindsight that I was following my natural inclination as a scholar to try to understand something more fully by diving more deeply into it. And then I reached the doldrums. Well, maybe you should have explored more extra material like Doughton, Foley. Wait, no, Foley's thing is just about screenplay, not Groundhog Day. Doughton, Baca, Banesh, Faust. No, I think Faust thing was just about the Christ figuring. Same with Kozlovic, that's not specifically about Groundhog Day. But, I don't know, It's not like someone wrote hundreds of thousands of words about Groundhog Day a decade ago. And then I reached the doldrums. Then there's a photo of Phil and Rita. This is not a shot from the movie. They're kissing. It looks like they're in front of the Cherry Street. There's the double doors behind, yeah. But there's a white fence. This angle is not, I don't think this is from the movie. One of the more questionable elements of Groundhog Day, the caption says, Andy McDowell and Bill Murray fall in love. Yeah, we can't even see the white railing because of the stone pillars. Rita the robot turns. Let's live here. They kiss, and that is not the angle of the shot. That's weird. Why did he get a production still instead of the shot from the movie? I guess because of his next subtitle, Shifting Perspectives. By the midway point, my viewing had shifted into a mode of cataloging and memorization. Phil Connor's weather reports ran through my head unbidden, and I had built myself a mental map of Punxsutawney to where I felt like I could give directions to a visitor. Considering the map in the movie doesn't make sense some of the time, good luck. I began to talk to the film as it played. Some days, the viewing felt like a curse. When Rita discovers Phil's dilemma, she says, maybe it's not a curse. Maybe it depends on how you look at it. My own shift in perspective came into play in the final 3 months. I found myself returning to the exploratory mode of viewing, encouraged by sharing and discussing theories with others who liked the film but who weren't nutty enough to watch it hundreds of times. Oh, fuck. Sorry, I saw the next line. New theories emerged. I decided the bartender at the Pennsylvania Hotel is clearly aware of Phil's predicament. Yeah, I always joked about that, but I regret that one. He's just a bartender. Make note of his knowing looks and how quickly he serves them their favorite drinks. Yeah, it's a Harold Ramis movie. He's not going to waste time waiting for the drink to be made. And that one of Punxsutawney townspeople is clearly having an affair, as he can be seen visiting the Groundhog Festival with his wife and the banquet with his mistress. I am curious who you mean. I think it's the old guy that's at the front of the audience during the auction that's clapping next to a woman. We don't know that he's married to either one of these people, unless you saw a ring. I'm really curious who you mean. Like, who else would it be? The old-timey detective-looking guy with the weird hat and the tweed coat? No, he's not with the woman. Wait, is he with... No, he's not at the dance. Who's at the dance? Felix, Buster, Fred, annoying dancer guy, who is not at Gobbler's Knob, though he is in the diner. Does he mean... What did I always call him? Walrus. Guy with the mustache. He's in the God scene, and he is at Gobbler's Knob, but God scene is with the whole family. He is at the dance. Oh, damn it, I didn't want you to give me something good. I had to pause while editing, because I think I know who he does mean. It is the old guy standing next to Doris when the auction begins, because he's with a different woman at Gobbler's Knob. I'm not the first to posit alternate readings of the film. Do not link. I'm going to look at the link. I'm going to see where it goes. If it goes to frickin' Wolfnards, we're done. CBR. Robert Vow, 2023. Interesting. Wait, updated February 4th. Updated after your article. How's that possible? This theories. This is someone writing about Ned Ryerson being the devil. Another one I reject. But how did you link to something that updates after yours? I mean, they updated, so they can update whenever, but it's still strange. But I understood in my final stretch of viewing that a film can transform with us, revealing new layers from viewing to viewing. Huh. It's like something I talked about recently with Izod and Banesh. No shit. Didn't he call himself a cinephile and a film scholar? He says this like he didn't understand this concept until this, and that's weird. Films as Friends is the next subtitle. In recent years, many scholars have examined the practice of repeat viewing, particularly with the emergence of technologies that provide flexibility to view when and where we like. That was handy. When I was doing the blog, I had a copy of the movie on my iPad, a copy on my phone. No, not on my phone, because I didn't have an iPhone then, till later. I guess by a few years in, I did. I had it in Dropbox. I had it on 2 Blu-rays, because I burned one. And I had it on DVD, and I owned a digital copy on Amazon Prime, a digital copy on Apple. I don't think I have it anywhere else. Film theorist Barbara Klinger. Ooh. Is this about Groundhog Day or just about film? Is it interesting? I don't know. Opening. It's a book called Beyond the Multiplex. It's the first full-length study of how contemporary entertainment technologies and media, from cable television, VHS to DVD and the internet, shape our encounters with the movies and affect the aesthetic, cultural, and ideological definitions of cinema. Professor of Communication and Culture and Director of Film and Media at Indiana University. Intrigued? Film theorist Barbara Klinger suggests familiar movies have the capacity to become our friends, and she introduces the term karaoke cinema to describe the joy of deep familiarity and quotability, arguing this experience provides the audience with an element of both comfort and mastery. My experience certainly affirms her claims. Watching Groundhog Day every day for a year provided me with a deeper appreciation for how a film may contain multitudes, particularly those we choose to willingly re-experience. The legacy of Groundhog Day can be seen in the recurring appeal of the time loop narrative in TV shows and films such as Palm Springs, Russian Doll, and Happy Death Day. And like every piece of worthwhile art, it can also sustain its own deep interrogation and reveal to the curious rewatcher its multifaceted layers and dimensions. On reaching the finish line, I was elated and celebrated with a final viewing on the big screen. I have a feeling it will be some time before I revisit the film, but it's comforting to know it will be there when I'm ready, an old friend who welcomes visitors. Damn it, Adam, I didn't want to like you. I really hope this informs your teaching about film. Like, this comes up all the time. It comes up in mine, and I don't teach about film. I just don't get why you would do that to just get this. A single piece you wrote for the conversation for $400. I did find him on LinkedIn, and I was curious. On one hand, I want to talk to him, but also I don't. Just like Banesh. Be fun. Banesh would have been more fun a decade ago. This guy did this only last year, so hey, it's closer. Yeah, I'm not as pissed off about it. I feel like you wasted your time. You could have written 948 words without spending a month of your life. So, watch more movies, watch time loops, live life more interesting.
Knew you were gonna say that.
This has been a production of Lemming Drops Studio. You can find links to more at lemmingdrops.com or join the Facebook group Lemming Drops Studio Tour. Also, you can support all my shows at patreon.com/lemmingdrops.
What is wrong in the end which never comes? Or which comes again and again, lapping, like waves.
Since the Big Bang set everything in motion, everything that happens in this universe has to be the way it is. Particles unfolding the way they're destined to.
How do you sleep at night? You've never seen Groundhog Day?
Yeah, you know Groundhog Day is not a documentary.
Remember when Groundhog Day was just a movie?